Thank you very much for the invitation. I will now present a little bit more on phenotypes, how we can visualize drug effects in the brain, and also focus on the role of drug metabolizing enzymes that are found in the brain and that may play a role in psychotropic drug metabolism. Why do we find drug metabolizing enzymes in the brain? Normally, drug metabolism is localized in the liver, of course, mainly, but some of the enzymes are highly expressed in neuronal cells all throughout the brain. Well, they may play a role in drug metabolism in the brain, local drug metabolism. They may have a constitutive role in biotransformation of physiological substrates, and this may also link to a potential role in neuroprotection. But we should know more about the role of drug metabolizing enzymes in the brain, and my talk will a little bit elicit the knowledge. If we look at the kind of drug metabolizing enzymes, we see that there are many cytochrome P450 enzymes expressed in the brain, but only a few of them do metabolize drugs. And of those, CYP2D6, which is the quite important enzyme in psychotropic drug metabolism, is expressed, and others that are not so common in drug metabolism. If we look at psychotropic drugs, then CYP2D6 metabolizes, well, a quite large part of antipsychotics, antidepressant drugs, and also other cytochrome P450 enzymes are involved, but those are not expressed in neuronal cells and not expressed in the brain. If we, for example, look at antidepressant drugs, these are just most of the antidepressant drugs that are available on the market, and in blue I marked all the antidepressant drugs that are metabolized by CYP2D6. So in the field of depression, it's clear that this enzyme is quite important, and interestingly, it is localized not only in the liver but also in the brain, and we will look at this now. It has a genetic polymorphism, CYP2D6, and this can be shown. Ümit Yazar already showed a similar picture. We can compare plasma concentration courses in poor metabolizers, intermediate metabolizers, or ultra-rapid metabolizers, and this single gene polymorphism leads to so large differences in plasma concentrations. And if we express this as differences in clearance, oral clearance of antidepressant or antipsychotic drugs, then you see that for some of the drugs, quite huge differences in clearance are caused by this polymorphism. So it is a clearly functional polymorphism. About 7% of the individuals do not have any CYP2D6 activity. They are so-called, they are knockouts of this gene. And of course, they are also in replicated studies, it has been shown that the polymorphism really leads to differences in pharmacokinetics. But pharmacokinetics is not yet drug response, as we learned. And now let's have a look on the role of CYP2D6 in the brain. It is expressed in neuronal cells, and if you look here at mRNA expression or protein signal, you see it's quite well expressed all through over the brain. In the cortex, in the hippocampus, it is expressed, and protein is found of CYP2D6. Hippocampus is important in depression and in other regions. So there must be a specific role why this drug metabolizing enzyme is expressed in neuronal cells. Well, some studies already tried to identify the natural substrates of CYP2D6, but I have to, put some limitations on these studies. They are all old, small, and the affinity of all these substrates are quite low. So to my opinion, it is not yet known which are the natural substrates of CYP2D6 in the brain. But it may play a role in biotransformation of neurotransmitters here in the dopamine pathway or in the serotonin pathway that are both very important in depression and schizophrenia. They may play a role in hormone metabolism or endocannabinoid metabolism, or also an unspecific role defending our body against neurotoxins. Some earlier studies already looked at the functional role of the polymorphism with regard to, well, personality, character features, and they found out, I think the first study was done by Leif Bertison, and he reported that poor metabolizers, those knockouts, individuals without CYP2D6 activity, they are characterized by high vitality, alertness, and so this on. And it is perhaps important to say that Leif is a poor metabolizer by himself, so it's perhaps a feature of a professor in psychopharmacology to be a poor metabolizer. But other studies also looked at personality and CYP2D6, and these are studies by Adrian Lerena, who studied in Spain and later in the Cuban population, who are also Spanish origin. And he found, a bit of the contrary, that poor metabolizers show more psychic anxiety or psychasthenia. Well, we also, when I was in Berlin, we tried to replicate it with a neo-FFI inventory, which is a broad personality inventory. We did not find any important influence of this single gene or genetic polymorphism on personality. So perhaps it's not so easy. But recently, other interesting findings came out, and there were replications by quite independent groups that CYP2D6 may play a role in suicidal ideation or suicide. The first study also came from Sweden, and they found that in suicide committers there was an overrepresentation of the ultra-rapid metabolizer genotype of CYP2D6. And there were some other studies. We also looked in our antidepressant drug response study and found higher scores on suicidality. Those did not commit suicide, but the patients had higher scores, which means more ideas about suicide things. And this was also related to the ultra-rapid metabolizer genotype. So perhaps there is a functional role of the polymorphism, and the function is mediated by CYP2D6 in the brain. If we imagine this role, we have CYP2D6 not only in the liver, also in the brain. It is involved in drug metabolism. It is the drug metabolism is modified by the genotype, modulated. And we also may have endogenous substrates for CYP2D6, and both drugs, endogenous substrates, may make the sum effect of treatment success, neurotoxicity, or behavioral effects, personality, or suicide. So it is quite complicated. I'd like to present a method that I used pretty much in the last couple of years because it allows, without any radiation, to look into the brain of patients and healthy individuals. And this is functional magnetic resonance tomography. And with neuroimaging, we can create a phenotype also for drug response or for the mental state of the patient. And we can study drug effects and also genetic modulation of drug effects. And therefore, I think it is a very suited method for psychopharmacology to look into the brains of our patients or of ourselves. There are mainly two different techniques of genetic imaging. Normally, for fMRI studies, perhaps you know these studies on reward system, decision making, all this, you have to perform a task, and your brain is observed during you perform this task. And this is usually called bold data acquisition. It is during the execution of standardized task, and you always compare without or with the task, so the same individual before and after. Whereas the technique that I think is specifically suited for drug effects is arterial spin labeling, and this is comparable to PET because it just shows the blood perfusion of the brain, the glucose consumption or oxygen in blood. So it reflects the natural state of the brain. It can also be used for measuring resting brain perfusion, and this is really comparable to glucose PET studies, but of course without any radiation. We performed a resting brain study, or what we performed was the genotyping of about 200 healthy volunteers who underwent resting brain perfusion measurement. This was done in different functional fMRI studies, but all the participants had a time of 8 minutes where they closed their eyes and just were in rest, and this was recorded then to measure the individual brain perfusion during rest. And we genotyped for CYP2D6, and this was just an explorative idea, and interestingly there came out an influence of CYP2D6 activity on resting brain activity. We had regions of interest defined before, and these were the regions where CYP2D6 is known to be highly expressed, for example, the hippocampus and the thalamus. And we had other regions as control regions where we know that CYP2D6 is not expressed. And as you see, there were, if you look at poor metabolizer, intermediate and extensive metabolizer, there were at least influences showing or pointing to differences in resting brain perfusion independence of CYP2D6 activity. And when we draw the whole activity score, you can even divide CYP2D6 activity up into 7 groups, not only 3 groups. Then it came out also to fit to CYP2D6 activity. And if we look at the regions that were affected, there were within the region of interest an increase of resting brain perfusion of about 10%. Well, this is a phenotype that is not yet functionally correlated to anything, but this was a quantitative finding. And also in some other regions in the whole brain, there were these significant associations with CYP2D6 activity. We then looked in the literature what these regions may represent. And we found an old PET study from 1997 that was performed for continuous performance of a long vigilance task. It was a study on sustained attention in healthy individuals. And in this study, the same or similar regions were involved in sustained attention, the ability to attend to a longer boring signal. So perhaps, and if you look here at the regions, this is just the occipital brain, you can forget this is the eyes, but here you see quite the same regions compared to this sustained attention study with PET in our study with resting brain perfusion in healthy volunteers. So perhaps this may be a hint that CYP2D6 plays a role in alertness, attention, or the availability to stay alert during a boring task, as for example pilots have to do. They must not fall asleep during a boring long flight. And the effects were in these regions that are involved in alertness with the reticular ascending system and the thalamus. We then went to another group and asked if we could genotype CYP2D6 in an independent sample. And this was a sample of healthy volunteers that performed different tasks, working memory tasks and facial expression matching. This is a paradigm for depression and depressivity. And interestingly, independent of the task, we found the same effect of CYP2D6. And this may also point to a role not in a specific task, not in depression or working memory, which is important for cognitive function, but perhaps the activity of this enzyme plays indeed a role in alertness or sustained attention. Yeah, this was another study which was originally done to look at antidepressant drug effects, and these were only 22 individuals who took 1 week paroxetine or placebo, and it was a blinded study. And okay, we also genotyped CYP2D6 activity, but it's a small sample size. But indeed, the same regions were also found, identified, where the CYP2D6 genotype had an effect here, as in our old study in about 200 individuals. And interestingly, after paroxetine, which is an CYP2D6 inhibitor, the influences in these regions at least diminished. So apparently there is some functional role of CYP2D6 in the brain, and CYP2D6 activity matters in some kind, perhaps in alertness or attention. The study also shows that you can study drug effects in the brain, side effects in the brain. And here you just see 1 week paroxetine or bupropion or placebo. And you see there are different brain regions affected when you look at resting brain perfusion. And bupropion, which is a completely different mechanism of drug action, differs from paroxetine. And here, mainly in the brain stem, where the Raphe nuclei are and the serotonin system plays an important role for, which also is involved in antidepressant drug response. We find differences in resting brain perfusion between the drugs, between paroxetine and bupropion, and you see different patterns of resting brain perfusion, of brain activation caused by those drugs. So this shows that this method may be suited also to follow individual courses of drug action in the brain during antidepressant drug treatment, as well as pharmacogenetic effects or genetic effects in general. And yeah, we now plan another study where we want to systematically study patients before and after the initiation of antidepressant drug treatment, because it would be interesting, compared to just 1 week, to have the course of antidepressant effects after 3 weeks. And these are studies that have been done in animals for a long time, but we will look if we can compare with resting brain perfusion measurements the effects that are known to be caused by the time course of antidepressant drug action in animals, also with the human brain. And especially the first 3 weeks are very critical, because normally response to antidepressant drug treatment is not before about 2 weeks. So it is interesting what happens after 3 weeks in the brain. And we will study this with resting brain perfusion. Yeah, so with this, I would like to summarize. I think the phenotype of drug action, especially in psychiatry, is very important, and we should try to validate more phenotypes. For example, imaging phenotypes to measure drug effects, to assess individual variability and also genetic variability of functional polymorphism. And this may help then to better understand the individual specificities of the patients and to individualize drug treatment to the needs of the patients. And with this, I'd like to just thank my group. I recently moved to Bonn, and this is my new group, and there are still some PhD students in Ulm who are working on the antidepressant study that David Gurwitz presented, where we also have a part in patients. Thank you.